All right. Happy Monday. Hope you guys are off to a good start for your week. We're going to run it down tonight in the Ask Me Anything like we always do every Monday and Wednesday night here on YouTube, X, and over here on TikTok. Flip my camera around here on TikTok. Let's try that button. Nope. All right. Well, I'm not a TikTok expert, so it's going to have to be how it is. We'll figure it out. Let a few more people move into the chat here. Appreciate you guys always asking such good questions and running it up. Never run out of questions, almost always till the end. We'll hang out for about an hour and a half till about 10:30 Central Standard Time with you guys. So, I always own my mistakes. And last week I came on here and I misstated something. And so I just want to rectify the record for people. I am not perfect, and sometimes I misstate things. So I want to make sure that this is clarified for people. Caleb Brown does provide segregated custody for all of the clients there. So if you are holding assets at Caleb Brown, they use Fireblocks as their infrastructure, and you do have a segregated wallet address. The assets that are not commingled. However, I will not retract my statement that they do not provide institutional grade custody, and we're going to run down why their custody is not institutional grade. In my personal opinion, there is not a specific definition for institutional grade custody. They do use Fireblocks, which is a infrastructure provider for other institutional custodians like BNY Mellon, who is an institutional custodian and does provide institutional grade custody. But there's some requirements for that, in my opinion. So we're going to break those down. One, the custody is provided by a separate entity, making it bankruptcy remote. Caleb & Brown does not do this. The exchange itself is integrated with the custody solution. Therefore, you are a creditor of Caleb & Brown. Now, they do have controls. They back things one-to-one. They've never had a breach. They've never had a loss. However, like I mentioned, they are not bankruptcy remote. Additional to that, they are not insured. They only rely on Fireblocks as insurance. Fireblocks as insurance is only on the infrastructure of the system. It's not on the actual assets. There's no crime insurance. If there was a breach or loss, not insured. Your assets are gone. They might make it right and pay you it back, but they're not insured. The infrastructure that Fireblocks provides uses MPC technology. This is not FIP standard here in the US, which is what's required for an institutional or qualified custodian to manage and hold assets. And in order to be compliant with that, you need to use HSMs or hardware security modules, which is what Copper and Medico utilize to support their infrastructure. Okay, and then lastly, they do not hold a fiduciary license. They are not licensed by Australia in any capacity to perform custody or fiduciary services. They do work in crypto, so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And this could change. They could absolutely go get the licenses. They could absolutely change their infrastructure. They could absolutely go get some insurance, and then they could segregate the custody out away from their exchange. And I would retract my statement and say that they are an institutional grade custodian. But until those things happen, it's not the case. And I'm not going to retract that statement. But I will say again, for those that have hopped on here since we started this, they do segregate assets. So your assets are not commingled. They are back one-to-one there at Caleb & Brown. My tea. Thank you. Very nice. Hey, with a lemon wedge. Look at that. She's a wonderful wife. So anyway, with that, like I said, I do make mistakes. I do mistake things sometimes, but I always want to make sure that I rectify that. And if I am wrong, I will admit it and own that. And I did say that assets were commingled to Caleb & Brown, and they are not. They are absolutely segregated. They do provide Fireblocks infrastructure, and so therefore you do have your own separate wallet address if you're there. But again, they are not bankruptcy remote. You are a creditor of Caleb Brown, not institutional grade custody, in my opinion. They do not provide crime insurance. If they were hacked, if there was a breach, there's no recourse on your loss. They're not licensed in any capacity to provide custody services for people. No, Australia has a financial license that they do not hold. They're not a qualified custodian there. And then lastly, they don't meet the standards that are required here in the U.S. by the SEC or other provisions in order to meet a qualified custodian's infrastructure because they use MPC technology and not HSMs. So anyway, not saying they're a bad solution at all. I think their fees are high in comparison to what you can get other places. I think 3.5% is a bit steep. But again, they operate in Australia. It is the most financially stringent jurisdiction on the planet. They do back assets 1-to-1. They're not rehypothecated. So for them to make money, it's kind of where they have to make their money is on the exchange piece of it. And they are a good broker. You do have somebody there that you can call that is your person. And so, there are some benefits in working with them. I'm not trying to beat them up, but they are not an institutional custodian, in my opinion. And anybody that says that they are does not understand what institutional grade custody is or the requirements to meet that for crypto and digital assets. But again, if they were to rectify the things that I mentioned here, I'm happy to retract my statement and advocate for them. But at this time, it's not anywhere that I would hold my digital assets. So just want to start it off with that tonight because, again, I made a mistake. I'm going to own that if I ever do it. So next up, we got lots of things going on here. I don't know if you guys saw that Thursday last week they tried to get the stablecoin bill to come in, and they did not get enough votes. I think they had 48 or 49 votes. They needed 60. So they're going to have to take that back and revise some things and add some things to the bill so that people will vote that in and then they can vote on it. We do have bipartisan approval for these actions. We had Paul Adkins, the head of the SEC, come out today, the chair, and say that his number one priority is crypto regulation here in the U.S., tokenization of financial products and assets, real-world tokenization is top of mind for them. We are a digital wealth partners on the panels that are drafting some of the letters to the SEC on how this stuff should be regulated. So super excited to be a part of that, super blessed and grateful to be on those committees, working through that, providing my insights and knowledge. I will say this, a lot of the regulators still kind of working in 2017, 2018 with their knowledge base about digital assets. They're not aware that issued assets can have their own smart contracts inherent to them with clawback provisions and other things, separate of having to pull back the blockchain to change transactions. There's just, been multiple things that which has been great. It's been nice to be able to add value because of my understanding of the technology in the circumstances that we've been able to participate in. So super excited to continue to do that. I'm excited that I think that the SEC will be able to provide meaningful regulation this year. And hopefully they take into consideration some of the letters that we're putting together at the Digital Chamber and passing off to them. So with stablecoin, I don't think that they're even going to get it through until there's going to be a crisis. And we've talked about this in the past. Japan and when the reverse carry trade unwinds, I think you're going to see a massive flood of foreign treasuries and debt flow into the market. And in that moment, there will be some urgency to get that stablecoin bill passed so that we can see Google and Amazon and Apple and Meta and X and all of these other large players, social media platforms, issue their own stablecoins and back those with the U.S. Treasury that they're going to buy when those flood onto the market. We also got Berkshire Hathaway sitting on like $353 billion. Maybe it's more than that at this point. We also had Warren Buffett state that he's stepping down at the end of this year, along with Bill Ackman. Interesting changing the guard taking place in the financial industry. And I don't think that that's a coincidence. I think that we're in a period of transition, and the dynamics that have existed for the past 50 years that people have really profited off of are going to change drastically in the next 6 to 12 months. But that's not to say there's not ways to profit. I think you guys probably know that. If you are positioned in some of these digital assets, they're going to be utilized in this transition and moving forward. That'll have utility on the other side of their implementation. I think you're going to be extremely wealthy. And on that topic, we've put together a webinar that we're going to roll out on the 19th of this month. You can register for that if you want to go over there on X, is where it's listed. For anybody that has over 500,000 XRP, you can register for this webinar. We're going to break down some of the secrets that ultra high net worth individuals use for wealth preservation, tax structures and estate planning, how to mitigate taxes at a high level, and then also some business practices that can be very lucrative, including the insurance policies that we work with for PPLI. So run all of that down in that webinar that will be recorded and distributed to those people that qualify. If you do register late, or if you want to participate in that, again, you can go over there on X and register for that. There's a Luma event. You do have to be accepted, but you do, if you have over 500,000 XRP, we would love to have you on the webinar so that we can talk to you about some of those things. And that's, look, this isn't like a poo-poo on people that have less than that, okay? I just don't know that the conversation is going to be extremely relevant for people that have less than half a million XRP. Not to say that you wouldn't be able to use some of these practices if you had less than $50 million, but they're going to be much more relevant to that crowd that I think is going to be managing that type of wealth in the very near future. And so that's why we put it together, and that's why the threshold is where it is. As the price appreciates, that'll obviously be redistributed to other people that meet that $50 million threshold. And if XRP goes to $1,000, if you got 50,000 XRP, you might fall into that category. So we'll talk about all those circumstances where that could happen tonight. We'll go jump into the questions here, since you guys always ask such great things, and get it done. So we've got Marcin. They say, hey, Jake, 10% of SWIFT and the stock market together are about $1 trillion in daily volume. That's much, well, a little less than that, but I'll give it to you. Why does SWIFT 10% alone equal $50 XRP and the additional stock market price increase it to $1,000? So when we talk about SWIFT, there's more volume of transactions moving over SWIFT than there are the back end of the stock market. And I think there's more XRP available to move the SWIFT payments than what's available to settle the back end of the stock market. So got a lot of people asking about the mic. It sounds crazy. I'll pull it up here. Maybe it's a little bit loud. So yeah, I think there's going to be less supply available for the settlement of the back end of the stock market, and that's predicated on the case with R3, right? So R3 was settled with Ripple. They got 1.04 billion XRP in the settlement of that case. And if that's, they don't even have that much available any longer because they have sold some of that off in order to fund their business and their transactions over the last 4 or 5 years here. They're looking to potentially sell their business, which is interesting. You got Ripple making the potential offer to acquire Circle, which did not go through. Bertie told me that was a regulator that stopped that from happening. So we'll see, if it does happen or not, but I don't think it's going to. But the reason for the difference there is the amount of XRP to be available to settle those transactions, and why I think the price discrepancy is so large is, I think there's probably closer to a couple billion XRP available to settle the back end of the stock market, where there might be closer to 10 billion available to settle those transactions on SWIFT. We've got Katie. Hey, ma'am. She said, earn a 40K salary, new to crypto. What are the top 5 cryptos you buy to seize the opportunity? Could you rank them for most important, please? I absolutely can. I can give you my personal picks. This is not financial advice. Nothing said here is financial advice. only for entertainment and educational purposes. Always consult with your wealth advisor before making any investment decisions. If you need a wealth advisor for crypto, you can absolutely go to digitalwealthpartners.net. And we have people that work for us that are licensed, have their 65, and they can absolutely tell you which cryptos to buy. But I'm not licensed, and I can't do that. I'm just going to tell you my personal opinion on what I think are the top 5 highest ROI. We'll go that way. You just said best. You kind of left it open to interpretation. My interpretation is going to be ROI. So XRP would sit at the top of that list. Second to that, probably be HBAR. Rounding out the top 3 would be XDC. In the top 5 for ROI, Hash is probably in there. Hash is still like 2 cents. I think if they are able to aggregate a portion of the insurance market, you can see substantial upside in that token. And then probably rounding out the top 5 as far as potential price appreciation for ROI is going to be XLM. Yeah, so those would be my top 5 current opportunities that I think exist in the market today. It would be, you said seize the opportunity again. So I'm just going to say, highest ROI. And again, that's predicated on the actual implementation of those digital assets and specific use cases for that return on investment. He also says, what resources would you recommend to gain a foundational understanding of crypto, blockchain technology, trading, holding crypto for a beginner? Thanks. We have a lot of resources on our channel that talk about that. You can also get into the Mastermind. That's promoting myself and our stuff, but we have almost 2,000 people there in the community at the Beyond Broke Mastermind, all of which are across the board, all of them are noobs at one point, just like yourself. We can provide you with a bunch of expertise that would probably be very helpful, especially in the beginning, to sort through the noise. There's a lot of noise out there when it comes to digital assets. There's a lot of people that are looking to scam you. There's lots of fake accounts for me on multiple social media platforms, so watch out for that. If it doesn't have a check mark, check the name of who you're interacting with. And I'm not going to message you, just so you know. If it's a WhatsApp or Telegram or any of that, it's not. We use Discord, and it's the Beyond Broke Mastermind Discord. There's no other form of communication. And if you message me, I will respond to you. But if I message you, it's a scam. Okay, we're not going to reach out to other people. So just be aware of that. Yeah, I would love for you to give you some knowledge and work with you there in the mastermind. And you can get almost 2,000 people in there. So if you want to go to beyondbroke.com, and then you can use the code. Oh, it's over here. Just kidding. Beyond Broke, the number 1, and then MO, get you a free month there in the group. In Social or Carbon One, so for like $25 a month, Carbon One's $100 a month. We are going to raise the prices on that. So just so you guys are aware, once we see a $10 XRP, we're going to lock the community down for 30 days. The vetting process to be able to participate in the community will become much more stringent, and all of the pricing for the Beyond Broke Mastermind will go up 10x from what it is today. So if you want to get in now before the bull run happens, which could happen in the near future, we've got the CME going live for XRP on the 19th. You have Coinbase getting listed to the S&P 500 on the 19th of this month. Coinbase did IPO at the top of the market in 2021. So if that's any indication of big news or big things happening on days that happen or correlated to Coinbase, maybe we get something big on the 19th of this month for digital assets or crypto. I think that that's kind of what I'm anticipating. You are likely going to see BlackRock and other big players move in on the XRP ETFs after the futures are live. And they're not going to do it before then because they need a way to hedge. You saw the CME go live for Bitcoin back in 2017, and that's actually what tanked the market, as they were able to short it back in December of 2017. And then obviously there was a rotation of the altcoins, and XRP was one of those winners that topped out at $3.84 back on January 4th of 2018. It has not ever reclaimed that all-time high. We've gotten close. I think we're going to reclaim it here soon when the futures are launched for XRP. Grayscale's ETF is supposed to be approved or denied by the SEC by the 22nd of May here. So very shortly after the futures go live. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. And then they punted the Franklin Templeton ETF all the way to June 17th at the latest. So we also have the SEC has filed their final letter in the case between them and Ripple, and we should see the judge rule her final verdict on that case in the very near future. And with that, that will finally, that saga that it's been will finally be over. And hopefully Ripple will be able to sell again to institutions. We got Ark. Enter. They say, hey, Jake, love your content. Thank you for the kind words. We appreciate you being here. He said, I am a financial advisor. Very cool, man. Never been more bullish on XRP and XDC as I am now. Not financial advice. Thoughts on supercomputers breaking cryptography? Has Ripple talked about this? Yeah, so David Schwartz has talked about quantum computers a couple times and how you can secure your wallet against a quantum computer. You're going to want to rekey it if you were to send a transaction out of the wallet. You've only ever sent money to the wallet. Both keys wouldn't be exposed and therefore not hackable by a quantum computer. But if you're going to rekey it every single time you send a transaction, which is what they do at institutional custody in Anchorage, then you should be good to go. So Bitcoin is a 256-bit encryption. Supercomputers today could actually break the cryptography there on Bitcoin. And I think at some point in the future they will. And the reason I say that is I think they're going to repurpose all of the infrastructure that's been built out for Bitcoin as a global decentralized AI and high-level compute to be able to manage all of that. We know people that sell the ASIC and all the stuff for the Bitcoin mining farms, and they're pretty much the same thing as what they sell to the AI farms. So very interesting, the synergies that could exist there in the future. But yeah, supercomputers could break the cryptography that's associated with Bitcoin today. We've got Whitetail. They say, hey, Jake, onboarding in process. What? Very cool, brother. Glad to have you on board. Looking forward to working with you. Any tips regarding the 40% threshold exemptions? This, I admit, did catch me off guard. I've not heard this discussed much. 45M married, accredited. I'm telling everybody your business here. 2 kids, and my XRP is about 83%. Thank you, Dave. Dave, appreciate you and the comments here and kind of airing it out, giving people a real example. So the 40% threshold, if you have a company where you have multiple stockholders, people have pooled capital, you've raised money, and you take that money and you invest it into other things, anything more than 40% in vertical investment would make you have to register with the SEC as an investment company. There are multiple ways that you can avoid that or exemptions, like you mentioned. One of those is under the Dodd-Frank Act that came out in 2010 for family offices. If you are managing your own money through a corporation, you are not required to register with the SEC. We obviously are because we're an RIA and we manage multiple people's money. But if you only manage your own capital, then you can manage it however you want. You can take on as much risk as you want, and you are not. I can't help it, Max. I don't know what to do here. I don't have a way to change it. Let me know what's going on here in the chat. I haven't done anything with my audio any different. I've got, they say I can't hear. Okay. Audio sounds like you're underwater. Well, let's look here. We've got my speaker.
How does it happen?
Well, that's, all right. Maybe that's better. My wife's on my computer, got a bunch of stuff going in the background, and that's probably what was causing the issue. So hopefully that's fixed. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me now. All right. People are saying that that's better. Very cool. Thank you. Sorry about that. All right. We'll go back up to the top here and get back into the super chats. All right. So back to Dave. You were nice enough to kind of lay this out for me. So again, you can, the main exemption that most people are going to use is that they are managing their own capital. And so therefore they can allocate as much as they want. You just want to make sure that that's recorded somewhere so that if the SEC does show up and ask questions, it's unlikely. But if they did, you would say, hey, I'm operating under this exemption and I can allocate my capital where the hell I want to because I'm managing my own money. I didn't take money from anybody else. This is pooled or syndicated. And so, that's why I don't meet these requirements and don't have to register with you guys. So yeah, would love to have you participate in the funds if you are accredited. So for people on that note, we do provide ways to be able to generate returns on your XRP at Digital Wealth Partners. We are an SEC registered RIA. We manage a hedge fund. We work with sub-advisors that have proven track records for market neutral strategies. So what does that mean? It means that they don't really lose money. They put things together in a way that, what do you mean? It's fine. No, it's fine. It's fixed. I turned off. All right. So on the on the funds. So if you have some XRP and you are accredited and you want to be able to generate returns on your XRP, we have a couple people that we work with that have proven track records. Their minimum return over a 12-month period has been about 20%. The best year that they've ever had has been about 50%. The code for discount on Carbon One is Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month. And I'm just spouting off terms here that I assume people know. So accredited in the US means that you have, there's a couple ways that you can qualify. One is that you made over $200,000 for the past 2 years on your tax return if you're single, $300,000 for the past 2 years if you're married, or you have a net worth outside of your primary residence or the equity in your home that is in excess of $1 million. And I think it's silly that it's an income or net worth requirement in order to meet the accredited status here in the US. There's other jurisdictions like the UK that, people are a sophisticated investor. And if you've been in an industry for a couple years, you qualify. You meet the designation of a sophisticated investor. And there's like 5 different provisions there in the UK that allow you to meet that status, where here in the US, it's only income and net worth based. So on the funds, though, if you do want to be able to generate returns, we pay out returns on a quarterly basis. People can allocate to the funds every single month if they want to, but those do pay out quarterly. So we'll have our first distribution here in July. Up to this point, both funds have produced about 2.5% returns for our clients there. We have about $60 million invested in the hedge fund that is generating returns on the XRP itself. People do not have to sell their XRP. They invest the XRP with us. They have full visibility of it the whole time. It stays there in institutional custody. There's no counterparty risk. It does not leave institutional custody. It's not rehypothecated. It stays bankruptcy remote and insured. So we removed all the counterparty risk in these investments. There is risk, though, right? For any type of return, there's always some risk. The risk is that the sub-advisors that we work with that put the assets to work in their strategies lose money over a quarter, which has never happened in the 6.5 years that they've been, doing this. But there is always a chance. So we've mitigated as much risk as we possibly can. And so, just trying to put that together in a way. This person's upset that I'm only talking to the 1%. I would love it if I could work with non-accredited investors, Aiden. And we do have clients that are non-accredited. And this person says Beyond Broke 130. Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar, or the abbreviation for month, still capitalized, is the discount code. And you can see that coming across the top of the screen here on the YouTube channel. So yeah, we definitely want to work with non-accredited people. We do have clients that hold, $500,000, $600,000, almost $1 million in digital assets with us. And we're working on solutions to be able to provide ways to generate returns for them. It's not easy in a regulated market. If I could do it, I absolutely would. We are literally under the thumb of the SEC. We are registered. There's no way to circumvent rules or do anything sketchy. And that's the other reason, that people want to work with us, is because we are buttoned up and everything is above board. So, I think there are going to be a lot of people that can meet the accredited requirement in the near future after we do see some price appreciation, and we'll be able to participate in these opportunities. This person's asked, can you elaborate on Carbon 1 and 2 and who benefits best from each? It's a big price difference. Yeah, sure. So social is for anybody. Social is for people that are new to crypto, that just want to learn a little bit more, whether you've made an allocation or not. We provide financial education, business resources, town halls every single Saturday and Monday. There are in-person events for the mastermind that you can participate in. There's a lot of channels there in the Discord that have a bunch of information, including all the previous calls that you can listen to for the past 2.5 years, probably almost 2,000 hours worth of content there for people that want to join for the social. Carbon 1, we provide financial education and business resources on the website. So you get access to the website and all of the resources and materials there. There's business resources, things for financial education that you're not going to get if you're in social. And you do have the capability to participate in the private deals that we run in the group. So there in the Beyond Broke Mastermind, we've raised, probably $7.5 or $8 million to invest in specific companies that you may know, like, and love. And so, those opportunities have been afforded to people that were not accredited. And the way that we do that is we run 506B SPVs or Reg D funds there in the group that are exclusive to the group. I can't market them publicly. We can't talk about the companies that we invest in or opportunities that we currently have open. I can talk about deals that we've done in the past. But with that, we can involve up to 35 non-accredited investors because they meet that sophisticated requirement, because they have a pre-existing business relationship with us and they understand the risks associated with those investments because of the education that we provide there in the group. And again, they have the same cadence of meeting as other people there in Carbon 1. And there's a few other additional benefits. Carbon 2 is mainly for business owners, people that are high-level professionals, high net worth individuals, other people that are a bit further along in their journey that do want to discuss some of the stuff that we're going to talk about on the webinar on the 19th, whether it comes to PPLI or, different types of private investments, how to structure your estate and trust, how to mitigate taxes, reinsurance on your insurance when you borrow against things, offshore trusts and strategies, international citizenship. There's a lot of things we go over there in that group that probably may not be relevant to the majority of the group. It's mainly for the people that can't afford that $250 a month. We want to provide them additional value, and we do have an extra meeting for them on Tuesday nights every single week. So if you think that that'd be cool for you, it's a bit more intimate setting. We do have additional meetups and private dinners for that group as well. Tried to give back to that group. And then there's an exclusive group that's invite only that's no longer on the website. It's for family office clients. So hopefully that provides you a little bit better idea of, again, what's there at the Beyond Broke Mastermind. You can check it out right here at beyondbroke.com and use the code BeyondBroke, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there in the group. Let's see here. We've got interesting. Hero Kim. They say, can you explain how returns are generated when working with DWP? What the average return rate is? What happens if there's a negative month? What if returns don't cover the cost of fees for the year? These are all good questions. Oh, that's very good. So again, I kind of ran through some of this before, but we work with people that run market neutral strategies that have produced anywhere between 20 and 50% on the assets. And with that, they've never had a negative quarter. So they have had negative months. The income fund that produces cash for people's investments that partner with DWP and invest in that fund, their worst month or biggest drawdown is what that's called, is negative 1.5%. That's the worst month they've ever had. That was during FTX and Voyager and all of the crap show that happened in 2021. Since then, they haven't really had much negative months. Occasionally they do. Nobody's perfect, right? A market neutral strategy just limits the drawdown. They've never had a negative quarter. Their worst quarter has been 3% returns. So 6.5 years, or actually I think that fund's at 6 years, never had a negative quarter. They've always produced some type of positive return. Not to say that it can't happen, but pretty strong track record that that's not going to happen. Average rate of return for them is, again, somewhere between, I think their worst year was 21%, their best year is 37%. We're not going to get that, just so you're aware. That's putting cash into their fund. Since we put up the XRP, we get a line of collateral against that, and that asset stays, again, in institutional custody, mitigating any counterparty risk. It stays bankruptcy remote. It gets reflected over there on their side, and then they're able to draw a line of credit against it. And that line of credit just goes up and down. There's no margin call if the assets fluctuate in value. So they're able to take that line of credit. They never draw down the full amount. Somewhere between 50 and 70% is all they ever trade. And they're able to put that to work in their strategy. So let's say they had a month where they made 5%. You're probably going to be looking at like 2.5 or 3% for the people that are participating on our side. Let's say they had a bad month and it's -2%. It's the worst month ever, -2%. We're not going to see that as bad. It's going to be like 1% for the people participating in our strategy, right? So that's the benefit. You're not going to get quite the upside, but you're also not going to get quite the downside. And that's why we feel that we've put ourselves in a position where we're going to be able to generate consistent returns for people and mitigate risk as much as possible. If they do have a negative month, the next month would cover, whatever upside would cover the negative month. If they had a negative quarter, the next month would top up whatever it was that you had lost, right? So there is a chance of loss. It's very low. On a risk curve, I would say, somewhere between 1 and 10, 1 being no risk, 10 being all the risk in the world, probably like a 1.5 to 2, somewhere in there. Very low, but still some risk. And it's not yield. There's no consistent, we know we're going to get this every single month. We're working on products like that with stablecoins and treasuries and some other things. But that's not quite here yet. If returns don't cover fees for the year, highly unlikely. Again, worst year they've ever had is 21%. And so for the people participating in our fund, be closer to like 15, 16% for like the worst year that they've ever had. Our fees are 2% on anything less than 5 million. So probably going to get those covered. Can't guarantee that. No guarantees. But again, I've tried to set this up in a way where the likeliest outcome is a good outcome. And there is a small chance that it could be a not so good outcome. But really, there's not another way to be able to generate returns in any capacity on your XRP without pretty much giving it over to another counterparty and losing control of it and being subject to, if they go bankrupt or just disappear, they run off with your XRP. Even Doppler Finance, I love DeFi. There's a lot of great things about DeFi. If they close shop tomorrow, run off with the XRP, there's no recourse. There's no insurance. They're in another country. What are you going to do? There's no recourse for you. Here, you have complete recourse. We're an SEC registered RIA. We have insurance. There's multiple custodians involved. We've done it as buttoned up and standardized as we possibly can to make sure that it's regulated and done the right way. And we're going to be able to generate what seems like pretty good returns for people. We're 1.5 months in and we're at 2.5% on the funds. So if we stay at this pace, you'd be looking at, 13 to 15% return over the year, which I would be very happy with for our clients. For mitigating risk to the downside, and we're able to generate somewhere between 12 and 15% a year, I'm pumped. And that's what I've tasked my team with too. We've got Marsha. Hey, Nam. She says, do you have to stay Carbon One to keep your pre-IPO shares? Do you have to have an LLC to buy pre-IPO shares? What's the website address? So you don't. there have been multiple people that have, got into Carbon One, made some investments, and then stepped down to social or discontinued their membership. Look, man, I'm here to help people. I'm not here to like rake you for money. If you're in a bad spot and you need to step away for a little while, and you made an investment with us, we're not just gonna be like, nope, sorry, that's no good anymore. Like that'd be shitty. Excuse my French. Like we want to take care of people, right? And sometimes you get in a bad position where you got to cut stuff out of your life. You got other expenses, you got medical bills, something bad happens to your kid, like you lose your job. There's all kinds of stuff that can come up in people's lives. And I don't want to ever put people in a position where they're going to lose their private investments because they can't maintain paying a subscription. Okay. So we do it because we have to have a pre-existing business relationship with you, and that justifies that, along with access to the private resources and the other stuff we provide. And you don't have to have an LLC. You can do it in your personal name. There's nothing wrong with that. I suggest an LLC because when you get those profits, you're able to then take those distributions and do some stuff with them to be able to offset the taxes. But you could roll it into an LLC and set one up later too. We've had lots of people do that. We're pretty amicable, man. I try to be very understanding and work with people and meet them where they are. I was not afforded a bunch of opportunities. I've had to cut my teeth and lose a bunch of money and like a fight for stuff. And like, all the masterminds I've been a part of, it cost me at least $3,000, some of which didn't provide much value at all. And I've tried to make sure that we provide more value than any of those for $25 a month. You know what I mean? Like I want people to be like, wow, I would pay more for this. So anyway, no, ma'am, you do not have to maintain your membership if you need to step down for whatever reason, or, step away for whatever reason. We want to take care of people, and we take care of people that take care of us. So hopefully, you come in and would, like to participate in the deals, and we would love to have you. And if you need to step away for whatever reason, we understand. And the website, if you want to check it out, is beyondbroke.com. The code for the free month there, social or Carbon One is Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO, get you a free month there in the group. And you can do the free month in Carbon One and participate in a deal, and then, step down if you needed to. And then if you need to set up the LLC, you can absolutely go to digitalfamilyoffice.io. Go to the services page and click the LLC formation. And then you can use the code 50OFF, 50OFF, DAG, like Digital Ascension Group. LLC gets you 50% off the $4,000 we normally charge. So it's $2,000, get you everything all in. I wouldn't do it unless you had, at least $50,000 to $80,000 in digital assets is when it starts to make sense. Is the way we set it up. It's an investment company that manages your digital assets. Or your alternative investments is actually what it's for. And again, so it's EIN, Articles of Organization, Certificate of Good Standing, a template for the operating agreement, how to set up a bank account, how to move your assets into the LLC without triggering a taxable event. And then we have a virtual office for people. I said registered agent earlier, I think, but that's along with that. And then if you need a consult and you need somebody to walk you through, it also includes that too. So again, try to be fully comprehensive for everybody, end to end for anything there on the LLC. And that code is 5050 OFF, OFF, DAG, like Digital Ascension Group, LLC. Get you everything all in to manage your digital assets for $2,000. A couple more super chats here. We've got Jake, any timeline, Canadian Pro Shares spot ETF? No idea. Probably after futures, after the 19th would be my expectation. Futures is going to allow large institutions to hedge. Canadians tend to be a bit more calculated, is how I would put it. Risk adverse is really what it is. The venture market there and the angel investing market in Canada is sparse in comparison to the U.S. And the regulatory framework there is the same way. It's a bit more stringent. So I'd expect that after futures are available for the CME, that's when you would see a spot ETF for ProShares there in Canada. We got I am XRP. What's up, man? He says, hey, Jake, I have a professional relationship with my credit union. Very nice. Is there a downside to opening a business account for my LLC at the credit union versus a traditional bank? Also, what are the fees for custody service only at Anchorage? Good questions. I like to have 3 bank accounts for my LLC. I like to have one at a large institution. I like to have one at a more regional bank, if possible, that I do have a relationship with, and also like to have a credit union. And the regional bank could also be swapped for like an online bank. And the reason for the credit union most of the time is to be able to refinance loans. They tend to offer better interest rates than traditional institutions, especially for businesses or homes or vehicles. So as you need to finance things, if you do have a good relationship, which it sounds like you do with your credit union, then they will be able to help you out with that. And if you do have a business account there, that's always a great tool and relationship to have. The fees for custody, so anything less than 5 million that we work with at Digital Wealth Partners in Anchorage is 2%. So if you held, let's say $1 million with us, 2% of that $1 million would be $20,000 over the year. That's prorated monthly, right? So if you just wanted to hold it, you get the insurance, you get advisory, you get the ability to borrow against it. You can participate in the funds. $1 million would make you accredited. And we'll continue to provide other value as we are able to scale things. Just brought on more advisors. We're going to do financial planning. So you will be able to participate in the webinars for traditional, financial planning. If you do want the additional financial planning, that does cost extra, but you'll be able to get all of the content around that. And like I said, your assets are insured. You're able to add your wife or your spouse as a beneficiary or signer on the accounts along with your children. We do require that you hold your assets in an entity in order to participate in custody or anything else with Digital Wealth Partners. And that's because Anchorage only works with businesses. So that's anything over 5 million, because everybody's going to be there in the near future, is 50 basis points. And then anything over 10 million is only 40 basis points. So at that $5 million mark, drops to 50 basis points. That would be, what would that be? 25,000 for the year. And then at 10 million, 40 basis points would be 40,000 for the year. And again, that's prorated monthly. So when we pay out quarterly distributions at the fund, you can allocate that toward your fees, along with the additional can be paid to you in a monthly cadence or in a lump sum, however you want it. We're working on solutions for monthly income that we'll be rolling out in July. Delta CRNA, thank you for the super chat. If I see your super chat or your question, here you go. He says, are you an IRA investment advisor representative and registered with FINRA? We sure are. You want the CRD number? I'll pull it up here for you. Let's see here. If you want to go to FINRA, broker, actually, CRD check. There's financial advisors. Come on. Firm name is Digital Wealth Partners. Here we go. Well, I've got the people that are registered. What about the firm? Excuse me. Here we go. Digital Wealth Partners. Dallas, Texas. The CRD number for our firm is 328627. If you want to go check it out there on the FINRA check. But yes, we are an IAR investment advisor. Actually, we're not a representative. I have representatives that work for me. We are an investment advisor firm. And all of our investment advisors are registered with FINRA there under our account as well. Wayne, what's up, man? He says, good, honest info every time. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. He says, thank you for being the realest crypto guru. Good call on the appreciation all the way to May 19th. That day will be epic. I have a $4.20 prediction, the 19th to the 21st. What do you say? I would love that. I would love it to be a lot higher than that also, Wayne. We've got Delta again. They say, darn chat box. Been a while now. He's asked the same question. Yeah. So again, that CRD number, if you want to go look it up on the website for advisorinfo.sec.gov /firm/summary 328627. The CRD number for the firm is 328627. If you want to go check it out. Most people are like, look, I've done this as buttoned up as you could possibly be. We're an SEC registered RIA. There's only 2 of them in the US that deal with crypto. We exclusively deal with crypto. We are the only wealth management firm in the world that exclusively deals with crypto. So if that's something you are interested in and would like to work with us, you can just go to digitalwealthpartners.net, go to the contact us page and go check that out. Shade Spot says, a while ago, you said you wouldn't recommend selling your home to buy XRP. I know people that have done it. But if we were certain of this asset's utility and where it's going, wouldn't that be the best financial decision ever? I don't know the time frame, Shade Spot, is the problem. If I could tell you, hey, sell your house in 3 months from now when you bought the XRP, it's going to be at a low price, and then the month after that, it's going to skyrocket to whatever it's going to be, sure. But I don't have a crystal ball on timing for stuff. And so for me to tell somebody to sell their home that's paid for to invest in an asset that we all know is going to do well, but when, we don't know, it's irresponsible. So I have to maintain a level of fiduciary duty, just like all of the advisors on my team do, and explain the risks associated with decisions. Not to say that it's not a good decision. We have a lot of people that have borrowed against their XRP and bought more XRP. I'm not going to tell you not to do it, but just understand the risks associated with that, right? And you got to do what's best for you. It's not, some people can't afford the rent in a home that they don't own. And if you already own your home and you don't have debt and a bunch of other stuff, that might really change your quality of life too. It could affect people mentally. So there's just a lot of considerations around that type of stuff. People get weird about their home. I think, we haven't sold our home to buy XRP. My wife would kill me. Literally. Wouldn't be here. So can't do that, right? Other people, it might make sense. You and your spouse might be able to agree on that. But again, I know other people have taken out a HELOC on their home and dumped it all into XRP too, that have made a bunch of money. There's a lot of people who have done really well making that play. But I can't come on here in good conscience and tell everybody that they should do that. Let's see here. What is the fair price for XRP will reach in the next 2 years? $10,000. My wife's over here on TikTok. She says, rest in peace with a knife. See, told you. Let's see here. We got Farmer Chris. He says, hey, Jake, happy Monday. Oh, he says, happy Monday. Hey, what's up, man? He says, quick question, getting an airdrop notification for Decent Wallet for DAG Constellation. Is it legit or is it a scam? Thanks for your input. Very much appreciated. Answer is I don't know, Farmer Chris. I was talking to my buddy yesterday, and he's got Flare. He didn't ever sell it. I sold my Flare on the way down at like 29 cents, and it's been low for a long time. I bought more XRP with it, which was a good choice at the time. I think those that have, stuck it out and done the farming on Flare and, got a bunch of those tokens will actually probably benefit in the long run. However, there's been a bunch of airdrops that he's just received out of nowhere. A bunch of crazy stuff. Free money is how I look at it. They can't really take anything from you if they give you an airdrop. You can have a trust line set up. As soon as you get the airdrop, I just turn the trust line off. Take the money. It is income. Be aware of that. If you have full access to it and you can spend it as soon as you receive it, whatever it's worth when you receive it, that's the income. That's your basis. And if it appreciates from there and you sell it, you now have income plus capital gains. So just be aware of those things when you're participating in airdrops. Yeah, I don't know on your decent wallet. I wish I had a better answer for you. Scrolling on down here, we got Shadespot again. He says, Vandell, Andy Sheckman, and others admit that gold will go bananas via being revalued. Break free of suppression, back new world currency XRP. What are they missing? How are they mistaken? Well, what do all those guys have in common? Andy Sheckman owns a silver seller online. Vendel and Verson are also, being compensated for telling people to buy gold through certain counterparties. Peter Schiff owns gold mines and also somebody that sells gold. Mike Maloney also owns a company that sells gold and silver. And nothing wrong with that, right? Like, that's your hustle. That's your grind. It is a good investment. It's made people a bunch of money. It's a good hedge against inflation. It is real money. It's God's money. Okay. Those are all true. However, anything that goes up that quickly has to come down. Gold is significantly beyond the ratio of gold to silver that it normally exists. It's only 40-1. Silver hasn't moved. Silver's at $35 still. Come down a little bit since then. I think it's closer to $30 right now. Let's look it up. Make sure I'm not lying. I don't want to be lying to you guys. Silver price. $33. I was close. So if it was 40-1, what would that be? 33. Let's do a little math here. Pull up my handy dandy calculator, just like Blue's Clues. We got 33 times 40. Gold's price, if it was the normal gold to silver ratio, would be $1,320. I think silver's a little undervalued. I think a $50 silver's probably about right. That's all-time high. Okay. And that would mean that gold would need to be about $2,000 in order to meet that gold to silver ratio in the right way. And that's where I think gold's headed back to. I think you're going to see a sharp pull down. Normally when charts look like that and they see an exponential growth like gold has, they have a significant pullback before they continue higher. And I think they're going to come back and touch its all-time high at 2000, around 2050, 2060 is where I think gold is going to come back to. And that's where I will buy some more gold. They're not going to tell you that because it's not in their interest. They want to continue to tell you that it's going to the moon. It's going to be revalued at $5,000 and $10,000. The other thing that I would say that they are missing is that Jim Rickards and others that have calculated the revaluation of gold predicate that on only gold being the tier one asset that's used to back all currencies. And they look at M2 money supply globally, and then they, revert back and they do the math. And you would need like a $15,000 or $20,000 gold per ounce in order to back all the currency. However, if XRP is going to be a tier one asset, if other treasuries are going to continue to be a tier one asset, you don't need that much. You don't need as much gold. And oil could also fall in that basket. So if you had XRP, you had gold, you had oil, and you had other treasuries, sovereign treasuries that end up being tier one assets that could back the financial system, gold doesn't need to be anywhere near those prices. There's a lot of oil. There's a lot of XRP. There's 100 billion XRP. I think there's going to be more XRP, less gold. I think a reasonable price that they could peg gold to, because they will peg gold to oil, about $2,000 an ounce. I think that's a reasonable price. Maybe it's $5,000 an ounce. Maybe you get almost a double from here. Not even quite a double, right? And that is in relative value, right? So once they back the currencies, you're going to have a more stable dollar. They're not going to inflate it away. Purchasing value of the dollar would substantially increase. The highest ROI by far of anything that exists today, in my personal opinion, and it's why I'm invested where I am, it's not financial advice, is XRP, bar none. So, and I built my whole business around it. Like, I could not have bet more. Which we'll see if I'm crazy or if I'm a genius. I don't know which one it's going to be. You guys tell me. But that's what they're missing. They don't understand that there's going to be other tier one assets, and that these are charts. They're volatile, and it's the revaluation is not going to save the price of gold like a lot of those people are. And again, they're profiting off of the narrative. So, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that they've helped a lot of people. It is God's money, all those things. But I do think you're going to see a significant downturn in the market here back to around $2,000. We are way up in the chat, and I am already an hour in, so we're going to try to, lightning round the rest of these questions. Honest Aim, what's up, man? He says, Jake, one popular XRP YouTuber offers exit plans, another offers Discord, only Discord like your group. Your team offers custody, investment products, private investments, Mastermind, on and on. Thanks. Appreciate you being part of the community and the kind words, Denny. We're not a one-trick pony for sure. I tell people we want to provide as much value as we possibly can for you. And if you ever come to us and you have something that you want, we have a health share plan in the Mastermind. So it's kind of like insurance, health insurance, not quite the same. But no other community I've ever been a part of has offered any type of insurance or health share plan or anything. So if you are older, if you are an entrepreneur, and you need some type of health coverage, we have that for people in the Mastermind because you're part of our community. Exit plans, we have actual financial advisors that can literally, they're compensated to do that and create an exit plan and do a full financial scope and analysis and planning for you. We have ways to be able to generate returns on your XRP or your other digital assets. We provide institutional grade custody and insurance on your assets. We provide insurance products that you can invest in, like some other people out there. We don't shill that, but it is something that we work with, and we do have the tool if it fits somebody. We have other private investments that you can get into that are not available anywhere else, especially for non-accredited folks. And we have the community in the Mastermind. And like he said, on and on and on. We'll continue to innovate and drive value and do as much as we can for our community and the XRP family. So, hopefully, you want to participate with us. If you do, you can go again, check out the Mastermind. It is up here at the top. Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO. Get you a free month there in the group. But we do, literally build fintech platforms, have other businesses, do lots of things that generate income. And I'm not here to show you anything online outside of the stuff that I think actually can help you. So thank you for the kind words, Denny. Hope you and your wife are doing well. Back to the lightning round here. Scrolling on down, not even halfway through the chat. Right on the nips. Some of these people have some crazy names. I said, hey, Jake, you're the man. Appreciate you. Right on the nips. I just wanted to ask, when do you think the reverse carry trade is most likely going to happen? I know you don't have a crystal ball. I'm just curious at your guess. I think they need XRP futures in place, and I think they need the ETFs lined up. I think all the dominoes need to be in place. The stablecoin bill is there. It could be passed very quickly. Tether, has already pretty much moved offshore, but they've been told that they will be subject to the stablecoin bill and the U.S. regulations. You've got MiCA in place. You've got the UK ready to go with their digital pound and the digital euro in the Eurozone. You've got all of these other large central banks ready to push their stablecoin and central bank digital currency, including the Bank of Japan. The Bank of Japan is ready to go with everything that they need. We're just waiting on oil to skyrocket. I don't know if that's going to come from a shortage or something that happens in the Middle East, but that will cause the Bank of Japan to have to hike interest rates very quickly, and everything will kick off. That's going to be the gunshot that I think is going to stir all this and make it happen. And it's going to happen way faster than people anticipate because everything's lined up, ready to go for when they kick this deal off. So I think after the 19th here in May, your guess is as good as mine. I think that's the last piece that they need in place is the CME in order to be able to hedge and profit off of this. You've already got the XRP ETF, which is a 2 times leverage long futures XRP ETF. And then you've also got ProShares, which has launched their long and short XRP ETFs. No spot ETFs yet. So I think all the institutions are on board. I think Jamie Dimon and Chase and JP Morgan are on board. I think HSBC, I think the BIS, I think the IMF, I think the Fed, I think the Treasury, I think the US, I think the BRICS nations. Everybody is green light, ready to go, just waiting on futures for XRP. And after the 19th, we're off to the races. Let's see here. We've got, is it Fire Marshal Bill? No, it's Stephanie. What's up, Stephanie? She says, thanks for all your time. Absolutely. I enjoy coming on here on Monday, Wednesday nights and running it down with you guys. She says, what is your opinion on iTrust for the little guy that doesn't qualify for your company? I think they're great. I think they provide a good product and a solution. They have a specific niche that they've focused on and really built it out. I think we do it better, but if you don't quite qualify yet, your assets haven't appreciated, they're definitely a great option, right? Like better than no option. If we could service everybody, I would love to do it. Unfortunately, we only deal with mostly high net worth individuals, and I think a lot of people are going to qualify for that in a very short period of time with price appreciation. And part of that is just that we have limited resources. It's not that I wouldn't work with everybody and anybody. One, sometimes it doesn't economically make sense for either party until the assets are greater, because the fees that we charge are like a lot of money to not hold much assets. Like you can hold it on a ledger. If you got less than $500,000, like that's still a lot of money to some people. $250,000, 100,000 XRP, like that's when it starts to get up there, and you're kind of like, I don't know if I want this sitting around in my safe or in my desk drawer or a bunch of stuff, Yeah, that's when it starts to make sense for institutional custody, I think. And you might put $250,000 in your house. The bank's insured up to $250,000, right? Beyond that's where it gets sketchy, and FDIC doesn't cover it anyway. So that's when you want the institutional custody. So anyway, great option. Bitcoin IRA is another one. Probably easier to transfer to us afterward through Bitcoin IRA if I had to pick one. Group one, Gavin. What's up, man? He says, legend. What's up, man? Hope your lovely wife has a beautiful Mother's Day. She did. She was a little grumpy with me. We had to move a dresser, and she was mad about that. But other than that, I think she had a pretty good day. Looking forward to one day shake your hand. Absolutely. Would be great to see you. Can't get there this year, but XRP Vegas, Las Vegas 2026. I don't know if they're going to have it in 26. I'm going to make a prediction. And I'm happy to say if I'm wrong, but I don't think they're going to have one in 2026. I think DAI and Brad are going to wrap it up after this year. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Caleb and Brown. I'll come back to this because now we got like 1,000 people on here. I touched on this when we first started, but I'll circle back to it. I was wrong. I misstated something, and always own my mistakes if I say something or misstate something. Caleb Brown does not commingle assets. They do use Fireblocks as their infrastructure on the back end. And they do segregate assets. If you do partner with them and hold assets there, they are segregated, never commingled. However, I would not call them an institutional grade custodian. And there's 4 reasons. 1, they're not a fiduciary. They do not have license. They're not a qualified custodian, not in Australia and not in any other jurisdiction. 2, they're not bankruptcy remote. Yeah, okay. They have internal controls, and they say they're backed 1-to-1. They've never had a breach, and they've never had a loss that I'm aware of. They've never had a lawsuit that I'm aware of. It could have definitely happened, but nothing I've seen. But they're not bankruptcy remote. So you're a creditor of Caleb and Brown. If you're holding assets on their platform, they own those assets. They are not yours. That's not institutional grade custody. If you hold it with us, they are in your name. They're in an FBO account, segregated, never commingled, and insured. Additionally to that, Their backend infrastructure through Fireblocks uses MPC technology. This is not compliant with FIPS standards, which is what's required by the SEC and the banking charter for the OCC here in the US to be a qualified custodian. And you are required to use HSMs or hardware security modules for your infrastructure. So Caleb and Brown does not meet that requirement either. So no insurance. They don't have that. They don't have the qualified custody license, and they're not bankruptcy remote. So those are the 4 reasons that I don't feel like Caleb and Brown actually provides institutional grade custody. You can tell them I said that. They can argue with you because there's no real definition. But they do use Fireblocks. The insurance that they have is on the infrastructure. It's not crime insurance on the assets. If there is a loss, not going to get paid back. You are a creditor of Caleb and Brown. Now, again, they have internal controls, and they do have stringent standards, and they've never had a breach, and they've been good up to this point. I personally am not going to hold my assets there. But I did misspeak. Your assets are not commingled. Let's see here. Scrolling on down to the next super chat from MM. Thank you for the super chat. I'll see if I see a question here. If not, appreciate you. Living Legacy has reminded me to say this. I always forget, but smash the like button. Share if you think this is valuable. Please subscribe if you are getting some value from this content. We do this every Monday and Wednesday night. Run it down here with you guys in the chat. Appreciate y'all taking the time out. Here they are with the super chat. They say, what do you think staking returns will be on XRP in the future? There's no such thing. Not a thing. XRP staking is a lie. Anybody that says that is lying. That's not part of the protocol. It's not possible. Now, there are other ways to generate returns or yield on XRP through other things that'll be created on the network. The liquidity pools and the AMMs that exist. Now, maybe you could wrap it on Flare and stake it. There might be something there. But as far as XRP's actual protocol on the XRPL, staking is not a thing. So anybody that's telling you that today, stay far away from them. We do generate returns, but we do it through a hedge fund, and we do it through a very creative strategy to be able to mitigate counterparty risk and still generate good returns for our clients. I think reasonable returns on XRP are somewhere between 4 and 12%. I think if you could put your XRP to work and earn somewhere between 4 and 12% today, if we wanted to work with Coinbase, we could lend them the XRP, and they're willing to pay us like 6% on the XRP. We could also lend it to Galaxy. Galaxy has a market for it, and they would pay us somewhere between 4 and 7% on the XRP. It's too much counterparty risk. If they go bankrupt, we lose the XRP. I'm not giving up the XRP to somebody else. So we want to make sure it stays in institutional custody. That value can be reflected somewhere else, and they can draw a line of credit against it. That's how we function today to be able to mitigate counterparty risk and make sure the assets stay bankruptcy remote and insured. But yeah, I'm not willing to give up the XRP that we work with to any counterparty and have it rehypothecated or traded or anything else. It needs to stay in XRP because if the asset appreciates and it's not an XRP, people are going to be very upset. And I think that's what's going to happen to a lot of people that are playing with fire. So again, would love to work with you at Digital Wealth Partners. If you're accredited and you've got at least $500,000 in digital assets, we can definitely put that to work and generate returns for you today. You don't have to wait. Todd, if you are accredited, is there a set amount of XRP you need to get started to get return? Do you still have to set up an LLC? Yes, we do need an LLC managing the assets, or a trust or another entity. It can also be an IRA, but we can't put an IRA to work yet. We're working on that. Currently, a trust or an LLC would be required. I just answered this, but 100,000 XRP is the minimum for XRP to work with Digital Wealth Partners and be able to participate in the funds. Once you're there, so that's the amount you have to qualify to be able to be a client. After you're there and you've already become a client, then the minimum to invest in the fund is only $50,000 worth of XRP. But to be a client, you need at least $500,000 worth of digital assets or at least $100,000 worth of XRP. So that way, like, you wouldn't have to put all of it in the fund, basically. DMP says, how does your fund earn returns for clients when XRP's price is stabilized? Lack of volatility. How does the growth fund and bank account also bank more XRP when there are supply shocks? Look forward to working with you. Appreciate you, man. So there's always going to be some price fluctuation in XRP. It's never going to be a fixed price. But the higher the price goes, to your point, it will be much more stable. But there's always going to be a futures market, just like there's a futures market on gold and oil and other currencies. And so with that, the growth fund will still be able to harvest volatility and arbitrage that market, especially when the order book is that thick. They may, work on leverage and do other things on futures in order to be able to continue to generate returns and change their algorithm in the future. No pun intended. But yeah, they will still be able to generate some type of compounding returns for our clients over the long term. And hopefully at some point we'll have some DeFi protocols that can do the same thing. And we will continue to work with people. I've got a podcast on Friday this week with Hugo for Flare. Would love to learn more about that and figure out how we can integrate that into our services for our clients. We're going to continue to innovate and bring new opportunities to the XRP family and the clients we work with. But yeah, currently at this time, that is how it works. They trade futures on XRP, and that's how they're able to, compound the XRP at the rate that they are. November last year was wild. They had like a 19% return in 1 month on XRP futures in the fund that we participate with. So returns are probably not going to be that good for our clients. Again, we mitigate risk to the downside and to the upside because of the way we structured it. So on that month, our clients probably would have got somewhere around 12 to 15%, but that's more XRP than you had, right? Like that's a big jump in 30 days. So if we see another move like that to the upside here in May, people that are in the growth fund might be doing pretty good. And I think June could be pretty similar for people. So if that interests you, if you are accredited, if you do want to work with us and be able to generate in-kind returns or in-cash returns, you can just go check out digitalwealthpartners.net and go to the contact us form and fill that out. A couple more super chats. We already went through that one. Staking returns, Todd. Always kicks me up in the chat here when we get about this time in. We got Damien. He says, Jake Dog, what's up, man? Thanks for helping with these diamond hands. Conservatively, I'm hoping for a $10 XRP this summer. $100 XRP would change my life. Changed a lot of people's life, man. Sometimes not for the better. I know that's hard to believe. Talked about this a lot on Twitter this week. The corollary I can make is like a dog chasing a car. If you don't know how to drive it, it might run you over. So hopefully you've spent the last 2, 3, 5, 7 years, however long you've been in XRP, cultivating your financial education, understanding, how to manage wealth over the long term, or at least finding the professionals to surround yourself with to make sure that you are able to take full advantage of this and mitigate the risk of loss or the potential bankruptcies that happen to most people that, win the lottery. So, again, I think this is going to be a blessing and a curse for a lot of people. And to your point, would definitely change your life, hopefully for the better, though. Teresa has a go. What's up, man? He says, thank you and your team for everything. Just wanted to say, like, share, subscribe, join the Mastermind. It's free for a month. Thanks, man. And again, to your point, you can just use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there at beyondbroke.com. Almost 2,000 people strong in the community. Just blown away, man. I can't believe we started this deal with, like 70 people more than 2 years ago. And to see it grow at the rate that it is here this year in 2025 is just super blessed and grateful for the community. We got Nick. He says, hey, mate, from Tassie, Australia, tuning in again. Just wanted to shout out another beer and whiskey. That's what I'm talking about. It's on my bucket list. Singapore, I'm looking at token 2049. I want to go check out Singapore, and then we're going to make it to Sydney at some point in the near future. It's on my bucket list too. We got Ashley Montgomery. Thank you for the super chat above, by the way. I did see that. So just want to say thank you for both of these super chats. She says, what do you think XRP will do over the next few months into August? If ETFs are approved, I'm a long time holder and want to take some short-term profits. It depends on the other catalysts that play out. Like we talked about with the reverse carry trade and the back end of the stock market and the implementation for Project Ion. There's a lot of things that point to a very high price XRP in a very short period of time. I think you could see a $50 XRP within a 24-hour period when there's supply shock. And I think on the other side of that, if things continue to domino, no pun intended, you could see a 4-digit XRP by the end of the year. And I've continued to talk about that on here. I know that's a bold prediction. It seems asinine and crazy, but I'm telling you the perfect storm is manifesting in the background for that to actually transpire here in 2025. So I don't know how much short-term profit you're trying to take, but probably going to be doing okay if you've been in for a long time. Dr. Denise, hey man, she says, legend, your integrity is appreciated beyond words. Thank you for being here and for the kind words, ma'am. And all the love that you guys have shown. Why does everyone freak out about price? Just hold steady. I'm with you, Maddie. A lot of people like investments. An investment is a 4-year commitment. Okay, that's my opinion. Anything less than that is trading. So if you're not here to hold for at least 4 years, that's an investment. If you're looking to make money quick, it's possible. It's definitely doable in crypto, but most people that make money in crypto that fast tend to lose it just as fast as well, unfortunately. Let's see here. A couple more super chats over here on the YouTube. Scrolling on down. Here we go. Keeps kicking me up in the chat here. Very weird. Here it is. We got Matrix Exited. Howdy, Jake. Canadian Kira here. Hey, what's up? Thanks for all that you do. Mucho appreciation and love. Best to your family. Love the Beyond Broke Mastermind. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the kind words and participating there in the group. Yeah, just it's super cool to see, how many people we've been able to bring together. Excited for, I think we'll probably have a get together at some point up in New York. We'd love to have you participate in that. I know that you're there in Canada. We got Max is headed to Canada tomorrow, Toronto for Consensus. So that's going to be fun for him. I will not be going this year because we're traveling to Vegas at the end of the month. Tom41 says, it seems not many people are concerned about stablecoin bill not passing. Is it even possible for significant price appreciation without the stablecoin bill passing? Nope. You need the stablecoin bill to pass. You need all those stablecoins issued on the EVM sidechain. You need treasuries to collapse. You need Tether to collapse. You need ETFs to be launched. You need significant losses in Bitcoin to trigger unrealized losses for the investment banks. And then they will dump liquidity into XRP to be able to settle the back into the stock market via Project Ion. If you haven't heard that before, if you want to go check it out, I do have the full breakdown of the domino theory on my YouTube channel. If you want to go check it out over here on TikTok, it's there on my YouTube channel. I put this out more than a year ago in March of 2024. And I got a little bit of validation from people at certain corporations and 3-letter agencies. So I'm confident that it is going to play out. But the stablecoin bill is actually, a very imperative portion of that. And I think they're going to rush that through when we see the reverse carry trade unwind and all those treasuries flood onto the market. John, he says, Jake, bro, how long can Japan hold on with IOUs, Bitcoin, and ETH are great distractions from XRP, which they need to run on an update on Tether. We just kind of ran it down here, but yeah, I think after the 19th is when you're going to see things start to move forward at an aggressive rate. You got to have futures in place. You need futures in place in the CME. And then I think it's full steam ahead into the end of the month here in May. Don, he says, my divorce is final June 1st. My wife has a self-directed crypto retirement fund. Half the crypto will transfer to me. Do I need an LLC exchange account or Nano will do? I don't know. Sorry, and also happy for you. I'm not sure which it is on the divorce. Whichever of those is my reaction, whichever is appropriate. Hopefully, it's for the best. And hopefully you end up with a bunch of digital assets. It sounds like you're going to. I would get it into institutional grade custody. I would call Digital Wealth Partners, and we would love to work with you, Don. DigitalWealthPartners.net. We can hold that crypto IRA for you, and we can put a different beneficiary on there. John, he says, can you explain the issue with Tether and why it's not seeming to be an issue for large majority of what seems to be a smart people connected? Howard Lutnick and Kathy Wood, excuse me. So the deal with Tether is, I think it was rolled into the U.S. government back in 2017. The Fed needed a proxy to be able to buy foreign debt as it was dumped onto the market. And obviously they were, fake money printing. They were printing Tether out of thin air and buying Bitcoin with it and backing it. And obviously they've repurposed a lot of that for purchasing treasuries up to this point. And I think that's been on purpose. But I think it's a ripcord on Bitcoin. Like, it's a built-in ripcord for them. They've backed it into a corner where they know that they can manipulate it. When Bitcoin was first put out, I don't know that was the case. I think there was a period between 2009 and 2014 before the investment banks and VCs got involved that Bitcoin could have actually scaled to a global peer-to-peer money payment system. Unfortunately, they did not increase the block size in 2014, and that's why you forked and got Bitcoin Cash. And I think that was the end of Satoshi's real vision for Bitcoin. And then you had Tether also launched in 2014 alongside that. And maybe they were, in it from the inception. It's a US dollar denominated stablecoin, which has been probably the most ruthless undercutting currency that's ever existed, at least in my lifetime, for sure, my whole lifetime. And, it's been a blessing and a curse, right? I've enjoyed a lot of freedoms and benefits here in the U.S. as a U.S. citizen, as the dollar has really plundered the world at large. But I think that they've set this up in a way where it's a ripcord, and people just don't. People are so bought into the hype at this point, and so bought into the foregone conclusion that Bitcoin just goes up and to the right. It's been a 15-year rug pull, and I think when they pull it, it's again they need a catalyst for huge unrealized losses for the investment banks. It's already integrated in the system, and they're going to have to rip it out. And when they do, it's going to leave a big gap, and they need something to fill that with, and that's what XRP is going to do. We got John again. He says, Jake, buddy, I know people that with small amounts of XRP, what do they do if they freeze exchanges? Get it off of an exchange. Get it onto a decent wallet. Why do you have your XRP on an exchange, John? Just giving you a hard time. That's not an easy thing to do, right? Like, to figure out the wallet addresses and transfer and set up a cold wallet and do all that stuff. I would highly recommend it, though. If you're going to be in this asset class, you need to understand how to operate in it safely. And I would highly recommend a decent wallet so that people could get their assets off of an exchange. And I think, just full transparency, we are an affiliate. I make like $5 if you buy one through the link in the video. Awesome. I just want resources for people. It's not about making money for me. I used Decent before, we were ever sponsored with them. Their UI is fantastic. The breadth of assets that they offer is awesome. They got a biometric, and you can add a 25th seed phrase word to make it more encrypted or more secure. And that's why I like it. So that would be my suggestion. Brad, what's up, man? He says, Jake, just got my LLC set up. Awesome, man. Glad to hear it. Appreciate you being proactive. He says, excited to get my assets moved into the LLC tomorrow. However, I have a ledger. Would you suggest moving them to Tangent Wallet? Yeah, Yeah, I would. Look, again, I don't like to badmouth people. There's just some things that have happened with clients that have had ledgers that have not led me to believe that it's completely secure. And so maybe it's fine. Could be fine. Could never have an issue. This is too much money to play with. You know what I mean? Like, imagine the guy that lost the 10,000 Bitcoin on a pizza. Like, there's just, you got hacked at Mount Gox. Like, there's just so many things that have happened or transpired. Like, if you're going to open yourself up to that knowingly, like, that's even worse. So for me, I wouldn't hold stuff on a ledger personally, just because of other stuff I've seen. I think a Tangent wallet is a good option. Again, along with Decent. Almost time to wrap it up here. We got John again. He says, can you explain the issue with Tether? Oh, well, we just went over this. See, it keeps kicking me up in the chat. I tell you guys. Hey, Devin, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, I'm now Carbon One. Awesome, man. Glad to have you there in the group at Carbon One. Can you take over as the registered agent for my existing Florida LLC? I cannot. We do not have a registered agent in Florida. I joined the webinar on the 19th. Awesome. I'll be glad to see you there. I will be able to get my questions answered. See there for sure. Yeah, we absolutely be able to answer your questions there on the webinar. Highly recommend Wyoming for any company that's managing digital assets or interacting with digital assets for 3 reasons. 1, Wyoming has no state tax. You also get attorney-client privilege in Wyoming, which means you maintain your anonymity. The way that we file it, none of your information ends up on public record. And then lastly, the regulation there in Wyoming is the best when dealing with digital assets of any state currently in the U.S. So you get all those benefits and protections. And Florida is progressive when it comes to digital assets. However, and they have no state tax. So you get those two. But unfortunately, anything that's filed in Florida is going to be public record, and people are going to know who's associated with that corporation. So, and we do not have a registered agent there, brother. I'm sorry. It's not something that we can provide. I think that might, oh, just kidding. We got Sean Sides. He says, I run a small business by myself, and my wife is a kindergarten teacher. Thank you. Thank you and your wife for being a cool American couple. She knows all about crypto. All she knows about crypto is I have some. Still hope for 4 digits in a year, just dreaming. I don't think you're dreaming, man. I don't think you're dreaming. I think you're going to manifest that dream. Your words to God's ears. Ashley says, what's your opinion on Uphold Vault? Also, if we don't qualify for your company, who should we go with that's secure, as you discussed earlier when discussing Caleb and Brown? I like Vault. I like Uphold. I would recommend just a cold wallet. Honestly, if you can't get real institutional grade custody, I would take that liability on yourself and just be radically responsible and hold those assets in your own possession. Would be my recommendation. I do like Uphold's Vault. They do have a wallet, but I'll tell you about Uphold's Vault. So Uphold turned a cost into a profit center, which is brilliant for the business model that they have. So before, especially XRP holders were just holding their XRP, and that's why they started with XRP for the vault on their platform, which was costing them somewhere between $15 and $25 a year to maintain those accounts with no trades. So imagine thousands of people just holding their assets on your platform with no trades. You're not making any money. So what they decided to do was provide an additional value or service and create a vault where they hold one of the 3 keys and they can regenerate the keys if you lost them, which is a great value add, and they charge for that service. So now it's like $5 a month that you pay them instead of them having to pay $25 a year to hold your assets. Now they're getting paid $60 a year for you to hold your assets in this other thing that they provided, which is secure, but there's no way to trade immediately. Like, you still got to send it back to the platform. I think it's a good option, especially for people that, are concerned that they might lose those keys, or they might need them regenerated, or their loved ones, might need help on the other side. of their demise for whatever reason if it's left in their will. So I think it's a good option. I like Uphold Vault out of most other options, but I still think a cold wallet like Decent or Tangem or one of the others is probably my preferred solution. And I think that's actually going to be it. Awesome. I'll take a couple over here on TikTok, and then we're going to wrap it up for tonight. We got question: is Coinbase safe to keep your XRP in 3 on there, or keep it on a cold wallet? Please advise me. I would move it to a cold wallet. Juan, wouldn't have it on Coinbase. How much time do we need to get XRP before it becomes unaffordable, in your opinion? I don't have a crystal ball, man, but if I was going to guess, I think after the 19th of this month, things are going to get pretty wild. Transferring coins into LLC wallet off personal Uphold account. Can you put them back in and sell? Yeah, absolutely. So everything that's recorded on blockchain is a written action or written consent. And when you're moving those assets, you just want to make sure those distributions go to a business bank account associated with that LLC. We got new to XRP, like your content. Any words of wisdom for XRP? Karate Dad. Have faith. I would say have faith. There's been a lot of people that I've seen just come and go or become very bitter over the years that things didn't happen quite as fast as they had hoped or anticipated. Anything that you really want in your life, you're going to have to be persistent with. You're going to have faith in. You're going to have belief when other people don't. And I think that's one of the biggest gifts that XRP has given me personally, is the ability to persevere or endure through difficult times, even when things didn't look that great. Continue to believe and persist even in the face of that. So I think you're here at a good time. I don't think you're going to have to deal with a lot of the stuff that most of us have had to deal with over the past 5 to 7 years. But with those would be my words of wisdom. And I think that's probably a good way to end it tonight. Appreciate you guys hanging out on a Monday as usual. Hope you'll have a wonderful week. Again, if you do want to join the Mastermind, you can absolutely go check that out and have a free month there in the group with the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you a free month there at beyondbroke.com for social or Carbon One. If you do need a wealth advisor, if you want a place for institutional custody, if you want to be able to earn returns on your XRP or borrow against it, you can go to digitalwealthpartners.net, and our team there can help you. And if you do want to go ahead and move your assets into an LLC to prepare for the liquidity event and set yourself up for success on the other side of price appreciation, you go to digitalfamilyoffice.io and use the code 50OFF, 50OFFDAGLLC. Get you everything all in for $2,000, end to end, everything you need for your management company. And I think I don't see any other super chats, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up tonight. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. We will be back Wednesday night for another AMA here. Hey, it's RJ, man. What's up? So random. Appreciate you being here, man. It's good to see you. RJ, for you guys that don't know, RJ is Prince of South Africa by marriage, and for real. And he's a wonderful chef. He used to work on a cruise ship, and we did a lot of country dancing when we were younger. So good to see you, man. Very cool to hear you, have you here in the chat. Hope you're doing well. Never know who you're going to see on TikTok these days. So hope you guys have a wonderful night. We'll see you guys in the next one. We'll be back Wednesday, and hope you guys have a wonderful week. We will see y'all on the next one.